All right. How's it going, everybody? We are very, very, very excited for this moment right here. Thank you guys for tuning in, for taking the time to watch House of Lev. And, our whole goal is being able to, we want to be able to elevate the family unit, elevate every single area of our life. And we have the absolute pleasure of being able to connect and have on two incredible individuals, two human beings that are super, super inspirational.
Yes.
We have, without further ado, Rav Mordechai Ben Avraham and Rebbetzin Tzipporah living in Yerushalayim. How's it going?
Excellent.
Baruch Hashem, very good. We're great.
We're very honored to be here with you, and we're just we're so inspired by you guys and just how much light you guys are bringing to the table, and it's just so important that we just acknowledge that as a community, that you're just coming in, giving so much light. And I think it's amazing to be on this podcast or Zoom meeting with you guys.
Wow. We're very honored. Thank you so much for having us. It's literally wonderful meeting everyone, and it's a dream.
Awesome.
Thank you
well,
so much.
We feel that about you guys. So thank you so much. We get so much inspiration from you guys. I know it's like it's late there in Israel, right? Like 9 o'clock. Okay.
9 o'clock.
Not too bad, but we appreciate you guys taking this time and being able to just connect with us, and thank you. We're inspired.
And so this couple, everybody, this couple has been, inspiring people all over the world. I've been following, Rav Mordechai for quite some time. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of our Jewish journey, when we first started out trying to figure out, like, if this is the route for us, are we going to convert to Orthodox Judaism? Rav Mordechai was one of the first people that I was able to converse with, right? Remember that, Rabbi? And I was asking him some questions, like, okay, well, what about this? What about this? And he said, hey, why don't we just hop on a Zoom really quick? So we video chatted, and that was a complete honor. And he really, really gave me a lot of chizuk, a lot of encouragement at the time. And I was kind of blown away that you were willing to take some time out just like that.
Yeah, I remember that very pivotal moment. It was actually because he was like, I think you guys were you on a phone or a Zoom?
It was a Facebook video, I think.
Yeah, it was a Facebook video. And I remember that we were in our room in our last place. And I was like, wow, he's going to call you and you talk. And I just remember that. And he was just so blessed by that. And that was a big pivotal moment for sure.
The thing is, first of all, thank you for that. But I think it's also the reverse aspect, because in this journey that I've been on, for some reason, Hashem has brought so many great people to me, including my wife, and it's just, I just meet people that have so much potential and there have so much greatness in them. And I believe that Hashem brings them in my life so I could, gain from them and also add certain aspects, So I meet people, all the people I come in contact with, I mean, they're like superstars. So, I mean, you guys are a testament to that whole process.
Baruch Hashem. Well, so when we spoke, you weren't married yet.
Yeah.
You weren't married at that time. So now just to kind of follow your journey and then to kind of see, you now get married. I mean, I'm sure that's taken you guys' relationship to the whole next level. And so that's why we wanted to be able to have you on, because we love marriage, we love relationships, and we think it'll be a great, great thing to be able to pick you guys' brain, to ask you guys some questions about relationships and marriage from a Torah perspective, because again, we want to elevate the family unit, and what better way to be able to have people like you guys on. So can we ask you guys some questions?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. All right, so some of these questions may be a little bit simple, but I think it's that simplicity that really, really connects with a lot of people. So let's just start from the very beginning. How did you guys meet?
Yeah.
We met I had known him for 4 years prior, watching social media and promoting his Kiruv, different things with my organizations in Kiruv. And we met at Shabbat in Malo Daphne, a very special home of a big Hesed family, do a lot of Kiruv for people, a lot of wonderful meals for wonderful families, and etc. And I said, I know you, but you don't know me. You're Mordechai Yosef and Ira. And he says like, it's like, who are you? And I said, I'm Tzipporah Devorah. And he says, oh, it's good to put a face to name, because I had already, been promoting his pages and his videos online, but he didn't know me because I didn't have pictures or anything, so he didn't know that I met him. And it was wonderful to meet him in person, and we just spoke a little bit, and we went on our first date, like a short while after, and yeah, that's how it started.
Wow.
So like Tzipporah said, like it was from my experience. So Tzipporah was working, actually doing kiruv and I think stuff with Yosef Mizrahi, these different types of rabbis. She was doing outreach stuff like digital marketing or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so she was, she was aware of everyone who was doing stuff online, like different people were teaching. So at the time I was in yeshiva, I didn't have Samika yet. I was just in yeshiva in Or Sameach, the yeshiva I was at, it was a very big emphasis on me teaching, so I was going there and it's like, you know what, you communicate so well, learn what you learn and teach it, So I was always recording myself and I put it up online, and that's how the whole thing kind of like started with the whole dynamic. So Tzipporah, seeing that, was familiar with me for years prior, right? And so she was following me. I didn't know who she was. I go into a Shabbat meal daytime, and she was mentioning there's a family, the Maklis family. Like the Maklis family, huge. When you come to Jerusalem, you have to eat by the Maklis. Their whole house is basically turned into a big gathering for Shabbat meal. Wow. And they've been doing this for 30 years. 30 years. Every week, every holiday, every huge hundreds of people every week, literally. And so we met there. I just walk in, this girl comes up to me and she's like, oh, I know you. And I'm like, oh, all right. So we went out and, whatever. She was in seminary and I was in yeshiva. It was really probably more my fault. Like I was just like in just a different mindset as guys are sometimes, and not getting it, right? And so we eventually didn't go out again, which is my fault. I apologize for that. And then Zohar Mars.
I do.
Yeah. So Zohar Mars had a wedding when he married his wife. Tzipporah was also invited to that wedding.
Wow.
So we met again there at that wedding, and then we left from there together. And then that's it's been pretty much that process all the way through.
Wow. Okay, so within that process, how long after were you guys married?
About 6 months, and we had dated for like 4 or 5 months, and then we decided, get engaged, all of that. And
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's those things that I know we're really excited to learn about, and just to kind of hear different perspectives, different stories about how people meet, how do people come together. And a lot of our audience love hearing things like that. I mean, based on what we've been kind of able to connect with our audience about, they want to know the stories, how does certain people come together and things like that. It's very inspiring to be able to hear.
And even for us, going through this process and learning more about Judaism and understanding just the process of when it comes to Judaism and marriage, it's not that long. We hear a lot of the time the process is not this like long out 2 years, 3 years, like here in America, right? And so to hear that, it's just so beautiful, because I think a lot of people here, it's like they, in America, they want to get to know the person and this and this, and it's like, that's the part of the journey of marriage in itself. So to see that in Judaism, it's just so beautiful. And for us, it's interesting because we got married 9 months after, and this is before us even,
You guys are frum.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see this. I as people know, I converted. I went through a process. And so I had secular dating experiences and relationships and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, I'll say like one of the biggest differences, in terms of marriage, and I think Tzipporah may speak on this a little bit, like, because I know there's other questions in this area. But the idea is to say, like, with the Torah, it's about matching values, right? And so that's why the shidduch resume and these types of things are so important. because you're trying to get to this closer and closer place of matching values.
Yeah.
And in the whole dating process, that's why the whole idea of Shomer and Nagia, this whole thing, because they want us to get to a place where we can match desires. And like Hashem has a ratzon, so do we. So we match, our wills together in essence, And so one of the things about Tzipporah for me was just like, what made her unique to me is that she was very much connected to the Torah, and it was very real to her. You know what I'm saying? It was very real. Like she was like inside of it, like a story. Some people get lost inside of a novel. She had that kind of like dynamic, and she had really great memory, and it was just like I wanted to share a Shabbat table with her, right? Because a lot of the marriage part is finding a partner that you could share a mitzvot with. That's the whole point. You guys are, in essence, utilizing each other in your uniqueness to like create this like spark you couldn't do by yourself. So she was like all the way in the Torah mindset, the Torah life, doesn't matter this, whatever we need to do to get more Torah out in the world. She had that spirit. So I said, okay, I can work with that. Some people, it's more just like maybe custom, or it's something they grew up with, or something they're intrigued by. But for a person who's you need someone who's able to go high with you.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Very
beautiful. So within that, how did you both know you were ready? A lot of people say, hey, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, but like, how do you know?
I guess I'd say for me that I think it felt like I would say like a puzzle piece, like fitting into place, like, it's the right one. It's only one of them that can fit perfectly. And it felt like, this is the right next move. This is the right next step. And this is what Hashem wants right now. So this is my mindset of like, okay, it just kind of fell into place, and everything happened so eloquently and well that it only had to be Hashem. Like you could just tell that everything was orchestrated the way his rabbi came into town right that week, and everything happened. It was clockwork, and it was like, whoa, it's so real. But I wasn't overwhelmed or anything. I was very calm throughout the whole thing. I think that part of it is just like accepting what Hashem wants for you and letting that, flow into your life going forward.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. The analogy of the missing puzzle piece, that I've never heard that. That's really, really beautiful. Yeah.
No, I think I think we can agree with that.
That's why I was like, wow, to say it in that way, because that's how I feel, even for us. Yeah. It was like, oh, he was that missing piece that just, it was right. It was right. You just know, right? Because people are like, how do you know? You just, yeah.
You can find similar pieces that like look closely like it might fit, but it doesn't fit right. And you're just like, this one's the one. If you got it.
Exactly.
So I think at our last day of our Shevet Brachot, after we had our khutbah, I remember a friend of mine, Oren, who was a great friend, who was also a friend from Yeshiva, and he was like sitting there at the table, and people were kind of like saying things, giving us brachot, different things, and but he said something that just like hit me, and I was like, whoa, that's really deep. He said, I'm really happy that Mordechai found someone who had the vessel, to receive all the things that he wanted to put out and do, and he's a strong person and has been through life and have had life experiences, and and so you need to have that. One of the things, my parents came to visit me right before Corona. They came here, and we ended up having Passover together. It was a whole thing, and I just remember my mom told me we're just walking through like one of the most religious neighborhoods in Jerusalem, Mer Shine. And she's like, whoa. She said, we sat down. She said, make sure whatever girl you marry that she can receive this, And I'm saying it. I'm saying it in a way that a lot of times we meet a person that's perfect for us, and we don't. Maybe you may not see it. Like when I first went on that first date, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. She could have met some other guy and got married. 2 months later, I wouldn't have thought so much about it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like that aspect of support, talking about that aspect of trusting Hashem's will, and having that in mind, and that puzzle piece dynamic. It's kind of like the same idea what I'm saying in terms of vessel.
Mhm.
Like I had the right amount of energy that she wanted a man to have, right? So that's why it fit for her.
Beautiful.
And then I wanted someone who, had the capacity to receive and to give back tenfold, right? Because women, whatever they receive, they give back tenfold.
Yeah.
So these things just kind of like she said, that puzzle piece is very like spiritually symmetrical in terms of what I wanted to give over and what she wanted to receive, and vice versa in certain ways. And so I think that's a way to maybe like see her words in that way in terms of puzzle piece, in terms of
Beautiful.
light and vessel, and that's really fitting in that way.
Man,
Wow.
I'm so glad we're recording this. It's good. I mean, this is like class for us.
Yeah. We're learning. Yes.
I'm so excited to kind of go back and to be able to kind of take some notes and just be able to learn. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
You and I, Coach,
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this one, number 4, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, can you guys talk about how you prepared yourselves for marriage? That's the first question with it, and then I'll go to the second part.
Okay, I'll start, I guess. For me, like I had a lot of books. Like I just I love reading and I love learning and growing and sharing different things. I had a lot of I had a few Rebbetzins that I would speak to. One of them, bless them, already passed away, but the other one took over right then and made everything possible for me to understand everything about Torah and like family purity in every way and everything that I needed to know. She made it very easy and accessible for me. And I already had a history of like understanding what it meant, different things, the laws in general, the halachot.
Mhm.
But it means more when you're like with a Rebbetzin. She teaches you like the inside, deeper concepts and like midrashim and Kabbalistic insights into things that you would normally have not been able to know, or maybe you would have seen it in different lights post marriage. And she gave me that like kind of like runway to go through with it in an easy way and a very like impactful but beautiful way too.
Wow, that's great. And I'm happy you said that because I'm actually studying right now that with my Rebbetzin, and the way that she's sharing it with me is so beautiful. And she was actually mentioning too, she goes, a lot of women, if they can, because what happens is that she goes, we'll get women who get married and they're kind of all just learning this right before getting married, right? And she was like, so my goal, like, especially with you, like I can take this time for you to really have a full understanding and know the beauty behind it as well too. And so you saying that, I'm like, it's so important to have that and be connected with the Rebbetzin and learning all that. So thank you for sharing that. And then I don't know if you want to go to if you want to answer that first, and then we'll go to the second part of that question as well.
Yeah. I would say the biggest preparation for me was sitting in yeshiva, and just being there every day. For me it was years. Everybody's different, right? But it was that changing and that refinement and that structure that comes along with being in different shirim, being in different seders, just these different experiences literally change a thing. I remember when I was standing at the chuppah with my wife, like I just remember going over in my head all the different sugyot we learned on chuppah, on the whole process. And as it's playing itself out, it's like everything in sheer is just going through my head, right? Because we study these things in depth. So that was a big deal. And and going through, you guys have bypassed that by being married, but also just the dating process itself. It's like it's so much truth in it, and sometimes it's hard for people to deal with the rejection that comes along with it, and that process of going out and trying to match wills and really even learning what your real, who you really are in that process. Because we all have this like fictitious, accumulations of ideas about ourselves that most of which are not true on the negative side, right? And so being able to just revamp your thinking process and to understand that dynamic of man and responsibility and these types of things, spiritual responsibility, and being consistent in those types of things, and transparency. Yeah. And learning about women, they go very much into women. But I would say, that's one way to do it, and another way is go on and deal with it. But I think for me, being a nice guy, was something that, was relatively natural. But the transformational part is being a spiritual leader in the home, right? And that responsibility of carrying that responsibility every day, that you are the spiritual leader, you're bringing in the light, you are the one, your tefillah is bringing the light into the house that your wife manifests. When things are not going right, I have to connect higher. I may have to do extra stuff, and I may have to do these things. And just taking on that level of the spiritual responsibility, that's never talked about in our society. That's not this isn't a secular, you don't go to Harvard to learn how to be a spiritual example in your house, And,
Right. Yeah.
and if you fall, how do you get back up quick? Because everyone's counting on you,
Yep.
So it's like that process, going through and having Rabbanon and having that support. The rabbi, the whole yeshiva, you understand, the whole yeshiva was behind me getting married. You know what I mean? Everybody. It so happened her Rebbetzin at her seminary was neighbors with my Maggid Shir at the time, Rabbi Rockmill. They lived right on the same floor, So it's just like, so everybody, because I came in yeshiva.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. But the thing is, it's like you having all these men behind you. You know what I mean? And everyone wants to see, because I came out of yeshiva in my early 30s. Like that's when I started, right? And so everyone's like, dude, like this guy has to get married. We got to do this. So everyone was just pushing it, and there was a big movement here in Jerusalem to the point. And I'll leave on this. I won't say anything. But the night I got engaged, I was living in Mearshire. First of all, the night we got engaged, I did a TV thing with Rabbi Arush. So Tzipporah was able to come by the studio with me, Rabbi Arush, and he gave us a whole blessing and this whole thing, whatever. But the night we got engaged, but then I go home that night. So I guess one of my roommates mentioned it. So like a whole pack of Hasidic guys. Yeah. I'm talking about Strimo, beer, the whole thing, right? They come to my apartment to let me know that they've been davening for me to get married.
Wow.
Yeah, in Mearshire. That's a true story.
Wow.
Something special, a small note to what he's saying is at the chuppah, like he was saying earlier, like you're given this special dot for all the wisdom and the knowledge you need to know for your marriage, for your children, for the life you're building. You're given all of that at the chuppah. It's like the Shekhinah is above you, and all of the information, everything that you need to know about your husband, all the spiritual bina that you need to know about building a home is given to the wife and the husband for each other. And that completes the preparations that they've been building for the past, entire time they've been looking at each other and trying to get married and excited about the future and everything.
Wow. You guys have us speechless over here. We're just like,
I got chills.
Yes. And of course, listening to Rabbi Arush, we love his books. We have his books on marriage as well. And just to hear that's major. That's a blessing right there.
He's a great guy. He said straight out, he said, your background and everything. He said, I wish I could do what you guys could do. You could go. He said straight. He said you could go out to the whole world and say, hey, this is a shum, and I live like you, and I'm over here. He said you can go into the whole world. He said they just see a guy with a beard.
Wow.
I was saying it in broken English Hebrew, saying this to me.
Wow.
He's an amazing person. Amazing person.
All right, that's one of our dreams. Like we got the marriage books right here, and it's just they've done so much for our life.
Yeah.
It's just that's amazing. I mean, we did have another question, but you guys
answered it. It was about the preparation, and you at the end you just even said that was the preparation, mental
preparation for it.
Yeah, we don't even have to ask that one.
Oh man.
Wow.
So good. Well, before I go into kind of your backgrounds of kind of being Orthodox Jews, and you mentioned something else about shomer negia, while dating and things like that. Could you? I think our audience will benefit so much, to kind of hear from you guys about a little bit about the dating process. Like, how was that experience for you guys?
I think it was very special. We had learned a lot about things together, and we were growing in a lot of ways, like in different and like I was learning about him and he was learning about me, and we were just like getting to know each other, like in a lot of like the newness of it was beautiful. And I think that like over time we'd get more used to like, you know, the dynamic and everything. And I think the dating process was very fluid. It was just very natural. Lots of Torah learning together, lots of growth together, and getting closer and understanding each other at a deeper level. And just everything was very like, I would just say it was just completely like, it was just like water. It was like everything was blessed in like a powerful way. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and also I think, you know, being in Jerusalem helped a lot. Being in full-time learning helped a lot. The stage where I was at that time was like fully invested into being the yeshiva person, and so a lot of our dates were visiting holy grave sites.
Yeah,
If you can imagine that.
we did a lot of davening at like the Arizal or
Lord,
like
Hebron,
Hebron,
Abraham and Sarah.
Well, okay, so you got. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned a lot of your time was visiting holy gravesite. Okay, so now to our audience, you know, because we have people in our audience that are not Jewish as well, you know, and so they want to, if we can maybe kind of help them understand some of these concepts and like, what is that about? Why do you visit grave sites, and what did that do for your marriage? Why was that important?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an amazing question. So the thing is that there's a tradition in Jewish thought that the time and the place were different like something that's holy or powerful or spiritual happens at a particular time or a particular place, we take note of that.
Okay.
Right? Everything has a significance. So people who are like prophets and people who were big tzaddikim, big powerful people in the world, the places where they're buried, they're not just buried in a particular place by accident, right? That particular place represents something. So for example, it's a place in Hebron, which is like probably like 30 minutes from where we're at in Jerusalem, maybe 40 by bus. And it's based where Abraham is buried, Sarah's buried, Isaac, Rebecca, Leah and Jacob, and then Adam and Eve. They're there, right? So they're all buried. I'm telling you, the place. I've been addicted for like 7 years. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the reasons.
Light there that comes to, like in their souls, like there's an aspect of their souls, like a spark of their souls that's still there, and you connect to the light of this neshama. And it brings like shefa to a person's marriage by, you know, having that blessing of like, and they speak, you know, on your behalf and Shemayim and Hashem and everything. It's like a whole kind of spiritual experience that you are connecting with the tzaddikim, and through the tzaddikim's merits, you're able to receive like goodness and like blessing in your marriage or blessing in whatever you're aspiring to do and whatever endeavor you're working on. Everything is there's an aspect of that that's always real, and these different people get very emotional at some of these places, and they're connecting to the tzaddikim, and they're connecting to Hashem, and they're connecting to the spiritual aspects of the tzaddikim, and they're like they want to pull from the strength of that tzaddik or tzaddikah.
Everything's from Hashem. Everything's from
Hashem, and they want to connect to the merits of the tzaddikim, and just talking to Hashem for help and for whatever their reasons are.
So 2 examples just to add that point on into to maybe make it textual for some of our viewers.
Yeah.
So there's 2 instances, right? So we have an instance when Moses is on Mount Sinai, and the Jewish people are doing something that's not so great. And so when Moses is speaking to Hashem, he says, "In the merit of Abraham, my forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov." So we learn there that we could go and speak to Hashem in the merit of someone who came before us great. So we have that, right? So we have so that's one example. So we learn out from there that I could go and like, you know, I have a bunch of Zohars in front of me on this table, right? So I could say I want in the merit of Rabbi Shimon, you know, me and my wife, we need this this miracle, or we need support in this area, or I need support in this area, or I know someone who needs some support in this area. So in Hashem, in the merit of Rabbi Shimon, right? In their marriage, right? So, but Abraham is like Yaakov. Another instance is Caleb, right? When the spies go into Eretz Israel, they start the plot. Caleb left, and Rashi says that he went to Marza Machpelah. He went to Abraham's gravesite and he prayed there, and that's how he elevated his consciousness. Wow. And then he came back and went against the Murad and said, I'm not going to go along with this. Mm-hmm. He didn't fall in. So we learn there by going to a holy place, a place of holiness, that a person could gain a strength. Yeah. Right? A person could gain strength. And then my last point, I'm just using Hebron as an example. There's many examples throughout Israel. Many examples. We went to Tzipporah got us tickets before we got married. We went to Yosef Asadik's yard site. I mean, his grave site together, like in Shem with military support, the whole thing. So it's just like we have a lot of stories. We have a lot of stories, but the point, and it's only been like a year and a half of marriage. But the thing is, maybe even less than a year and a half. But the point is just saying that when people see Jews praying places and going to certain spots, is connected to the fact that we have a Masurah, a tradition that there's holy places, that holy things happen, that you can go and you get an extra strength there. And then you can also pray in the name, we learn on Mount Sinai, we could pray in the merit of the Avos, so people came before you, right? In their merits, right? These are my uncles, these are my grandparents, So it's like that type of idea. And so when you bring those together, there's certain places, specifically here in Israel, where it's like, humongous places of revealment. Wow.
I'm so glad you guys are talking about that too, and you're providing sources, because a lot of times people can take that the wrong way and say you're praying to the Tzaddikim, and so I'm glad that you're talking about that too, because you're not praying to them, right? You're praying to Hashem, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so
please,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just supporting her. It's like, is that's the point. We're just in places, and we have the merit of our ancestors in our prayers. But it's a lot of traditions have that too, by the way. It's not just us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow. So you guys said that was something that you were doing during that dating process. Is that something that you still do together as a married couple now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
not as much. We've been busier, but definitely. Whenever we have a free moment, we try and go to either Pedal Rachel, or we try and go to Hebron together, or a different spot, or different places.
But I also think since we got married, we also done more relaxed things too, like going to the beach and for Hanukkah, we went all the way down to Tel Aviv to see the largest Lego menorah in the world. They have
nice.
So we
have some dates and stuff that kind of bring freshness and newness into the
go out to eat, that type of stuff, the more nicer stuff. But I mean, we go, but a rabbi kind of said it's not the best place to take your wife to some of these places, because there's a lot of energy there, and depending on how sensitive she is, it may not be the best thing. So
we go more locally now.
We went recently. We were there a couple of weeks ago. A friend of ours' mother passed away. Barbara's mother, and so we were already there. So we went to visit a couple
of. Amazing.
Wow.
Awesome.
Can't wait to do that.
I know. Yes. Okay. So since being married, what has been the most impactful part of marriage so far?
I love the deep honesty that we share. Something that we both have in common is we love truth, wherever you can find it, whether it's in the Torah, whether it's in the deep introspective thought you have on yourself or others, or life in general, or something you want to share. Everything is coming from a spiritually vulnerable place, and you can feel that honesty within each other, and it's very meaningful. It's nothing, you can't really compare it to anything else, and it's something that really connects you, and it really resonates in your neshama. Something when you have conversations that are really meaningful and impactful. I think this is one of the main things that we share is a complete honesty in everything that we're really thinking about, and what does it mean for us, and different things that are going on throughout life and days and stuff.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, just to support. I think the same exact thing with you know, I'm in the same zone with support. I think for me, you know, it's just holding up to that leadership, you know, and figuring out what's the right balance, you know, of how to push things forward, but also being patient.
Yeah.
You know, being, you know, clear, but also being sensitive. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And dealing with the opposite mechanism of a person, you know. So I'm still figuring that out. You know, I'm still figuring out how to communicate effectively. And I'm looking at, okay, maybe, you know, like there's a famous story that they talk about, you know, Moshe, when the Israelites, you know, are revolting against them and they're upset, and it's a midrash, and it's like Moshe just like says, like, you know, if I was a better leader, you know, they wouldn't be this way, you know. And so, and the people talk about that, use that as an idea to understand is humility, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that idea, you know, in marriage. It's like, you know, sometimes you get frustrated and you know, you kind of at times have this inclination to blame the other, you know, or to see flaw or mistake outside of you. And the way to move things forward is to really internalize a lot of those thoughts. And it's a very difficult thing to see what you would consider imperfection or non-functionality or whatever the dynamic is, and then to be able to look at that and say, oh, well, that's a reflection of some place inside of myself, you know. That's very hard, and I haven't got to that mastery of that place. And, you know, Baruch Hashem, you know, Tzipporah, you know, a lot of those things come up, you know. And so it's just you know, just growing in that way. And for me, part of my strategy of growing is really growing in my Torah to expand my consciousness, you know, so I could be in a particular situation and feel something and have a thought, but be able to go bigger than that, and to be able to say, like, okay, here's the big picture in this moment. Here's the big picture in how I should communicate. Here's the big picture, how I should respond, versus this limited experience, which is right now, you know?
Sure.
So it's hard work. I'm saying, I mean, go ahead.
So I was going to share some idea. There's this understanding that when a person is like when they're upset or they feel like something inside that's like, whoa, like, why does this make me feel this way? It's usually like a mirror, saying that there's something inside of you that is connecting to this feeling, but it's also saying that you have that same thing in you. That's why you have that feeling towards it that's negative, or it's usually a reflector. And women are known, like, it's the Kabbalistic ways, in the Kabbalistic text, it explains that the women are like mirrors. They only reflect their husbands, and whatever they receive is whatever they give back. Like, they're just mirrors. You can't really blame them. Like the same way.
That's where I get messed up.
It's like what explaining that they whatever they receive they give back. So they'll be a connected their husband, or they'll be their supporter. They can't really be an in between. There's something that if you give them love, if you give them what Hashem wants us to be given, we'll give that right back. If you're giving them something less than, that's not positive, they'll give it back too. So it's like you have to kind of remember that you're reflecting your wife, and they're part of you. They're a piece of who you are. And through seeing yourself in them, you'll have Rahmanas on them and on yourself as well, and they will have Rahmanas on you, because they're women are the Shekhinah of the home, and they bring down the presence.
That's so beautiful. And you guys are literally speaking our language, because that's what we talk about, is the whole mirror. You can tell that you guys read Rabbi Arush stuff as well too, by just even listening to that, because we learned so much about the mirror. I think that was a whole paradigm shift for us and for him to really understand. I mean, I think him understanding what you just said, Tzipporah, was literally what brought so much more Shalom Bayit in our home, because he understood, you know, what I'm giving him is what, you know, he's giving back to me. And so he saw that, like, okay, if she's feeling this way, then I need to give her maybe more of this, right? So yeah, we are all about
the opposites.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, and I'll say, you know, like, I mean, just, you know, for, you know, it's difficult, you know, like sometimes I mean, I want to be righteous. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be reactive. I don't want to get upset. I don't want to give up. I want to be in this state of just clarity and zen, right?
Yeah.
So you may have moments like that. You may even have a day or a week or whatever. And you're in the state, and then boom, something happens, right? And so for me, it's a very challenging thing that like this issue is a reflection of my consciousness. Like it's a very difficult thing that is as a totality. But the point is just saying that part of the mirror works. That concept works, but it's activated as a working mechanism between two people. When the woman, this is the idea, this is the concept of snoot, right? This idea of being able, snoot is not just the idea of like, okay, I'm modest, people are looking at me, I'm not affecting men, right? No, but snoot is being able how to interact also with your husband and his personality, right? So if I know that certain things are triggers or he has certain susceptibilities or maybe he's struggles in a certain way or whatever, I could actually, because I'm so sensitive and understanding as a woman, I could hone in on that and help improve it, right? Because I'm able to see that, right? And if I'm reacting, I could also be aware of my behavior and say, hey, I understand that I'm really, Hashem's using me as a channel to act out din, right? On the husband for sure, but if we could just fix the entity that's bringing the din, we both would be good, right? So it's also that cooperation component of saying like, yes, he's reacting and I'm expressing him, but I also have an element of abdox, right? Where I could sit back and I could say, hey, you know what? How can I help him to elevate from that particular limitation that he's struggling with? How can I get there? That's also the mirror, right? That's also like, oh, well, the mirror's reflecting me because the mirror wants me to fix as well, right? So it doesn't have to just be the judgment, it can also be the Rahmanas too, which is this idea of saying like, okay, you know what? This issue exists, you're struggling this way. You have a trigger or some type of trauma, something you have that gets you reactive in this way. So let me work with you to help improve that.
Beautiful.
So that working system,
I'll share one thing that I learned that was very beautiful about kind of shedding a little bit of light on how things go in the spiritual world regarding people that are maybe experiencing hardship in their marriage.
Please.
That like when the wife or the husband is going through something and it's reflecting and it's creating a hard time for both of them, it's relieving them of din in the spiritual world because they're experiencing it in this world, and because they're together, they're able to do tshuva together in this world. It relieves any sort of negative occurrence that might happen in the future or in different times in life based off of their reaction to each other in that moment when they're experiencing in this world. And it relieves a lot of pressure from whatever, maybe they owe something spiritually, just something's going on and they need to work on themselves. But doing it together and experiencing that hardship together and giving each other rahmanut is the best way to relieve themselves of anything that could hurt them or create a spiritual negativity in their marriage. Pretty beautiful stuff.
Yeah, very beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Number 13, that would be fitting.
Yeah. Okay. So this is for you, Rebbetzin. Were you always znius?
I've always covered, like, I've always worn skirts, I've always worn like long shirts and stuff. I didn't understand it when I was very young. I didn't understand like the extent of what tzniut is. I grew with throughout my life. I've always learned everything I learned, I accumulated into my lifestyle. And so whenever I found out more, I would do more. And whenever I was given the opportunity to know more, I took on that knowledge, and that's where I am. So
that's
I could with that. When I was little, I was like, oh my gosh, what is it? And I was just learning about, what it means and everything. I wasn't perfect back then, I should say. I was still doing other stuff. I was a kid. I wasn't a child, but at this time, for sure it's a different place and much much more religiously inclined.
And that's beautiful. And can you talk about like, why is that so important to you, especially now?
Oh, it's so important. Like modesty in general is really, it brings so much shefa and abundance to a marriage and to that person in general. I think a lot of the Sephardi Rabbanim that speak about, modesty is it brings like spiritual merits to a woman. For every time that she covers her hair, it's like infinite it merits. Like every moment that she's wearing it, she gets like a scar for it, like a reward for covering her hair. She gets a merit for every time that she acts tzniusly and that she behaves herself in a way that is modest, not just like in wearing clothing, but in her actions and her midot characteristics. So I definitely feel like it's a lifestyle, it's something that can never really get enough of, because it's something for me. Like I love the whole idea about modesty. It's not like, oh, some people think it's like, oh, it's like you're just concealing yourself, but really it's like you would cover anything precious with lots of layers. Like you wouldn't like flaunt diamonds in the street, you would protect that.
Yeah.
So you cover it, you make it holy, and you sanctify it just like the Shabbat. So that's kind of like what we're doing with our bodies. It's like our neshamas are like little bit to mikdashes, and they have to be treated as such.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And as I'm going on this journey, I'm learning just so much more. And a lot of people they ask me questions as far as like, how was that for you? Was it so hard for you? And I think my answer for it is, when you have an understanding of like why you're doing it, then it makes it so much more beautiful. You're not doing it just because, but you have an understanding. And I think for me, that's what allowed me to be able to just kind of make that switch, because it was really kind of an overnight thing for me. Because people were like, didn't it take you so long? And it wasn't overnight, because I saw the beauty in it and I saw the importance and I understood why a woman does that. So thank you for sharing your perspective on it.
So you guys mentioned when you were dating, you were learning a lot together, so can you guys talk about just the importance of learning Torah together? Mm-hmm. And if you could maybe even start on, how does like a newly married couple, or even a couple that's dating, could be, but how does one even start learning together?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, women and men learn differently, learn Torah differently, just for various factors. But even the way on an institution level, we're taught, different things. So like Tzipporah was in seminary here in Yerushalayim, and so she went to one seminary, and they had somewhat of a focus on like Tanakh, but also focused on things like the Gemara, right? It was a little bit more of what they would consider like more of a religious, like open-minded type of environment, more like religious, like Zionist, like in the land type of a dynamic. And then she went to another seminary, which is like more, I think, her speed, Midrash Rachel, which she was like, very like more in kind of the same system that I was in terms of Hashkafa, right? So she knows a lot of Tanakh. She knows a lot of Tanakh. I'm definitely impressed by her understanding of the laws of Nida and the understanding of the preparation for these things, and it's like it's very systematic. It's an impressive dynamic. So for me, I was coming from more of a Gemara background,
okay,
right? More of a Gemara background, more halakha, these types of things. She was also halakha, but like just more like going through like a Mishnah, and then like going through the process all the way through the Gemara, through the Rishonim, to understand how it becomes a halakha and shulchan aruch, right?
Yeah.
So it was coming from that practice. So now, us learning together, having those different kind of like backgrounds, the thing is, we pick a topic, right? We pick a topic, and we learn that topic together. It could be a Friday night kiddush. It could be netilat yadayim, or we learn the commentaries together. We learn midrashim together. We recently got a set of Zohar, so now we've been learning a lot of Kabbalah together. Nice. I mean, we were in a Kabbalistic yeshiva with Rabbi Pinchas in the Old City for almost a year. That was after the formative learning by Or Sameach, and I even went to share by the Mir Yeshiva as well, right? So I went by from there, and I went, remember Pinchas, so I learned how to learn the text of the Kabbalah inside in the same way in Yeshiva I learned how to learn the Gemara, right? Inside, right? So we were able to take that, and so Tzipporah also went to a lot of those classes as well, because he had a Kabbalah thing also for women too.
Okay.
So she was doing the whole thing. So we're able to basically pick topics, weekly parsha, and the thing is learning it and getting each other's opinion on it. You know, how did you hear this? How did you learn this?
Nice.
When you hear this commentary, what's your thought on it? And expound on that, right? And it creates such a bond, you know, a soul bond that you can't replace that. You know what I'm saying? You can't just say, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to find someone else, or this, that is beyond a superficial dynamic. And I would say that is one of the strongest aspects of our marriage together, is the fact that we both love learning, we both appreciate learning, and that's you know, that's our home, you know, like that's our home. Is that, I mean, obviously the learning is also has to become into practice as well, right? So it's the learning is putting into practice. But if your mind is already there, right? If your mind is already there, it makes the practice a lot more fulfilling and richer. And there's nothing more special than learning Torah with your wife and then like going to hang out as a couple. It's just a whole nother level. Because you're so connected to Hashem, you're so focused on Hashem that it's like when you guys are together, it's like the Shekhinah is like with you guys.
Oof.
One thing is like for any couple that is getting married or prospectively getting married, is to learn together. It literally, like when you're married and you're learning together in Shemaim, it binds your souls together more closely than anything else that you could do in a marriage. It literally, it's the closest you can become is through learning Torah, and the Shekhinah is with you. You are with Hashem, and it's the closest two people can become is through learning together. And if any type of action any couple could ever make, it's the closest you can be to Hashem and to each other, and closeness and Kadosh Baruch Hu is of most importance in a marriage. So, yeah.
You guys have so much wisdom. Like you've been married for a year now, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, just listening to you guys, I'm like, this is the mindset that should be going into any marriage, is this way of thinking, and that love and that passion for Torah and wanting to learn together. And it's like me and Ladero, we wish we had that early on in our things. Obviously everything happens how it's supposed to happen, but just to think about where you guys are going in your marriage just so early on, it's just so beautiful to hear that, and just the maturity and like what you're working on. Your focus is Hashem, which it should be. Beautiful. It should be, and that's what marriage is all about, right there, right?
Well, and just on that point, and I would say this as a person who went through Tzipporah went to religious school when she was younger. You know, her family was more. But her hashkafa grew when she came to Israel. But the point is just saying.
Different world.
It's a byproduct of the system. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not like here. Like I have friends. You know, I was looking at. You know, I was interesting. I was looking at. It hit me the other day. I was looking at like I'm always looking at clips and highlights of stuff, right? So I was looking at this highlight of like Shaquille O'Neal and these guys on like TNT. You know, some like basketball type of show, right?
Yeah.
And so you have all these guys, and they're these grown guys, and they're kind of like joking around, they're throwing stuff on each other, and they're giggling, and they're kind of like one guy's running over there, whatever. It's nice. I'm a Shaquille O'Neal fan. I'm a different fan. But it would make me think about, are they in the same mindset as they were at 23? Like right now, esports. I understand it's funny, it's jokes, but are you still the same Shaquille O'Neal at that age? Are you still the same person, you know? And so I would say like the system forces us to grow and mature. I know guys younger than me that are holding like old men, you know what I mean? Like, so the system progresses. As I think that the system that we were exposed to does the opposite. It trains us to not grow in that way. It to kind of like see life from a particular lens. And to stay in that place, you know. So what you see with me and my wife, even more so on a lot of levels, is a byproduct of the system. Which since she's been a young girl, her mindset has been thinking about getting married.
Yeah.
You know, in that dynamic, that's a part of the system, right? So it just, and then for me, obviously, as a man, you want to be married, but it has to be attached to a Torah husband, right? Which is a husband that is responsible in bringing down the amount of light that the house needs in order to perpetuate what it has to offer, right? So that's your job, to bring down light every day, like that. Pranasa, everything's all connected to light. So just that's the thing, you know. But the system is. I mean, you know, you guys have a huge family, you know. But if there was an opportunity for you guys to come to Eretz Israel and work, you know, part time or whatever, do something online, and then be able to learn in a yeshiva and similar, it would just be so worth it. And it'd be such a great thing for your journey too, to take all your fans with you on that process as well. And you know, the book I wrote, Mind of the Black Jew, that book was written based off of lectures that I gave in yeshiva. So as I'm giving over in yeshiva, these were the lectures that were took by myself and the editor and put into text, and then boom, nice. We have our book out and it's selling all over the place, you know?
Nice. So I do want to come back to your book, because I want to give you the platform to be able to share that with all of our audience and all that good stuff, for sure. I would love to know, you know, from you guys, you know, Rabbi, you were already on this spiritual journey, right? And you know, if our viewers didn't know, you know, Rabbi Mordechai, he converted to Orthodox Judaism, right? He's been on this incredible journey of his life, right? So you were already on the spiritual journey. What changed for your life holistically when your wife came into the picture?
Jeez. The question is, what didn't change? But yeah, you know, the thing is you know, a man is not able to manifest really without a woman. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter how, like, you know, great you are and how strong you are, whatever, we are spiritual entities. And so I represent this energy of sharing, and my wife represents this energy of receiving. Yeah. Right. So without having that, like, Ezo connector, like having that other entity that's there that can receive your light, you know, and you're not really in a game fully. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really manifested. So I would say, like, you know, since everything with Tzipporah, I mean, things have grown exponentially, you know, in my material life, and, you know, obviously my learning, teaching, everything's just at a higher level. You're just stronger. You're there. You're dealing with real things. You leave the house less, you know. Yeah, you're just inside. I mean, because you have a person you can learn with. Yeah. You have food in the house. You know what I mean? You have internet. I mean, it's just like, it's not that much out there, you know, like, you know, past a certain point. But yeah, everything changes. I mean, you're not even the same person. I mean, it's like, it's not the guy who was single and that reality. I mean, for sure, you know, I have memories, but you know, this is a whole new Derek. So everything's changed. Yeah.
Wow. And do you feel anything, Rebbetzin, on your end, you know, when you got married, did anything change on your end coming into this whole life together?
I would say yes. I definitely learned a lot. I grew exponentially. I felt like a whole new wholeness came into this, like my personal life. Like, I felt intense clarity, you know, getting married, and ever since, just like growing spiritually together and everything. I think a lot of things have manifested for me too, spiritually, and, you know, even materially, and like in every way, everything is just kind of blown up in a lot of ways. Beautiful. And I felt that has to do with, you know, the blessing of Hashem, and you know, just being with the person you're supposed to be. Like, Hashem provides the rest. Like, just having that emunah, having that faith about everything will pat, and just prayer about anything else, that it's perfect. I definitely felt a lot of elevation through the process.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. I mean, you guys are using terms that are like foundational words on our channel. Yeah. Elevation and elevate, and like that's it for sure. Yeah. Lastly, Rav Mordechai is an author. He's written an incredible book that has helped us in our journey with being able to understand how to communicate, how do we communicate Judaism, right, to our friends, to our family? How do we even wrap our heads around it to be able to make it really simple and clear, to be able to have an understanding for ourselves, right? And Rob, that has been, one of the biggest things that I've been able to take away from reading your book. It's been a huge, spark in our life, and we appreciate you. So I want to give you the last couple of minutes before we end this incredible interview to just promote it, whatever you want to do. Everybody, listen up closely. You got to go get this book.
Yeah,
the floor is yours.
So I just want to say in closing, I just want to really thank you guys so much, and I'm proud of you guys on a human level, and I'm very proud of you guys as an African American, and what you guys represent, from that standpoint. You represent this. So much information has been, kept away from our people. In America, we weren't allowed to read at times. We weren't allowed to congregate. And it's not a sad story. Just like you guys were saying, everything is at the right time. The show is perfect, right? So, but it's also to say that we also have this free will, and in our generation, we do have a lot of freedoms, and we do have a lot of accesses, and the information that we have inside of our Torah resonates with our soul. I talk about time. Many African Americans, come from Jewish tribes that were in the transatlantic slave trade. So many of us are compelled to, and connected to Judaism and Yiddishkeit, but for us, it's something in our DNA, that resonates with us, and we're like, okay, you're a convert. Okay, I don't feel that way, but if that makes you feel comfortable, fine. But the point is, I want to keep the Torah, right? And I always say, I say it all the time to people, it wasn't about me converting to the word Judaism. It was about me converting to the life force of God, right? I wanted to be with the life force of God, and the Torah and the 613 mitzvahs gave me the most amount of controlled, filtered light that I could get my hands on, and so that's what I'm about, the light, right? So how much more can that energy I could bring into my soul, that I could bring into the world, that type of thing. So with that being said, I wrote a book, Mind of the Black Jew. You can see it. Yes. And people ask me what's up with this title, Mind of the Black Jew, the oldest new way of thinking, And the thing is, I feel like one of the things in our society that's not discussed enough is African American intellect, period, right? Because when you think about the great thinkers that we've had and inventors in the midst of such tyranny and harshness, where did that type of mind come from?
Yeah.
Where did that type of mind in North America that could have been in chattel slavery, all these different things, 1-2 generations are at a scholarly level, how could that happen? So I felt like, me as, a person who, converted to Judaism and went through the process, and it took me a couple of years, the whole thing around it. But the point is that the thinking process that it takes to go through a conversion is more impressive than going through a conversion. You know what I'm saying? Like someone goes through a conversion, okay, very nice, they converted. I want to know what the mind of that person, because for me, and I'll close on this point, I won't even go so much in the book. It's here, right? But the bigger idea is like this, is to say that there's billions of people on planet Earth. Was it like 9 billion people or something like this? Like 9 billion people on planet Earth. And maybe 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 of them, maybe every year, decide to take on the Torah. That's insane. It's no logic for it, for the soul to out of all these people. So this rabbi said to me once, because my journey started at the Kabbalah Center, right? So I felt I knew a lot of stuff, and I had that LA ego thing, yeah, I know. But this rabbi said something amazing to me, and it changed my life. His rabbi Weiss, who's in Los Angeles. He said like this. He says, Mordechai, I know that you learned a lot. You went to Kabbalah Center, you went to Israel, the whole thing, you did Rosh Hashanah, all this type of stuff. You've been there for years. He says, but you have the beauty of accepting that you're not Jewish, right? Because in my mind, I know everything. I know Kabbalah stuff. I've been to Israel. Like Kanye said, you can't tell me nothing, right? And so that was my mindset. And so he said, but accepting that you're not at this point and you didn't finish that process allows you to experience and reveal something, one of the greatest gifts that God gave to humanity, that a person could take themselves out of the spiritual klipa into pure ruknias. That we have the power to take our soul, that nefesh, and say, you know what? No, Hashem, I want the ruach, I want the neshama, I want the chaya, I want the yechida, I want all 5 levels of my soul, and that's what I want you to give to me. That you could demand higher levels of your soul, of a soul, and you can live life at a higher madrega, a higher existence because of the spiritual elevation. So the fact that you can do that, people get caught up like, oh, I was born this, I was born that. Who cares? It's the person who took themselves and created themselves on a soul level. That's the mind that I want to learn from, right? And that's why the most repeated mitzvah in the Torah is love the ger, right? Love the stranger. And keep in mind, there's no, and I'm going on record saying this, there's no real conversion process. Conversion is something that exists in Christianity, it exists in Islam, in other religions. In Judaism, we have a process called gerut, being a ger. Ger is a stranger. So what is a stranger? A person who takes on the Torah becomes a stranger to the world system. I'm no longer a part of the world system, so now I'm a stranger to the world. So now I'm a part of Am Israel because I chose to be a stranger. That's why Yaakov was a stranger in Laban's house. That's why the Jewish people were strangers in Mitzrayim. Abraham was a stranger. Different people were strangers because they took on a system of God that made them different than all of humanity. So that is what I captured, the thinking process of a person going through that process. And I think one of the main points I wanted to achieve with this book is that we know everything comes from Hashem. Echad, everything is Echad. Everything, right? So when we're learning Torah, how does the Chumash and the Midrashim and the Gemara and the Mishnah and all these things and the Halakha, how do they all come together? The calendar, the praying, the holidays, the Yom Tovim, it just seems like they're on all these different islands. At least it did for me. But going to Yeshiva and learning these things, I was able to see how everything was interconnected and how they all were expressing the same light in different reflections, right? And so the book itself, basically for anybody who's already in or going through the process, it allows you to get this holistic outlook on the Torah and everything, and then you're able to just kind of like power through with this kind of like connectivity of everything, and it makes everything more powerful.
Wow. That explanation of the care.
That is on our channel. I'm so excited that we have the great merit, that Hashem is blessed with the great merit to be able to have this power couple share all of this wisdom, all of this light on our channel. It's an honor. We're so grateful
to be able to have access to what you guys have shared with us today and to keep replaying it and study it. I mean, we are definitely going to go over this again. Moly. But man, that was,
thank you guys so much. Everything that the both of you just said throughout this hour and 10 minutes or so has been received with every fiber in our being. We're so grateful that you guys carved out time of your life to be able to come chat with us, to be able to share with us. I mean, we were just looking forward to it so much because we love what you guys represent, love what you guys stand for, and I feel like this just really like solidified a friendship with you guys even more. And like
you guys come here, we will help take care of everything. I mean, obviously, it seems like, he's like the crown prince here over here. I mean, he's huge, So Baruch Hashem, we just had another baby. But I was saying, like, this recordings you guys are doing, which is so powerful. I just think there's something to I wish I would have captured more of my process, of my conversion process, and wrote things down. And I would have loved to publish that book. You know what I mean? Like just that, and then you start your other thing after that, because you're giving people so much chizuk and this, and then you have the kids, and there's people who are bought tshuva who have kids, and they're trying to figure it out, and other people convert. So it's just like you guys play such a role. So it just, these recordings you have, don't sleep on having an editor taking this content and turning them into a textual book of discussions that's on Amazon for $36.26.
Oh
Absolutely.
man.
Go
Oh man.
support,
Oh man.
guys.
Go
Definitely
support. It'll
that.
be a game changer for your life.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you guys so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank
all
you,
of
thank
our
you, thank you.
audience, our viewers for watching. Thank you guys so much. We really, really hope that everyone was elevated to that
Yes.
next level. We definitely were elevated.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. So thank you, Rav Mordechai and Rebbetzin Tzipporah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just one last thing on this thing, and I heard it, and I'll give the credit. Rabbi Shaddai, Pinchas Eliyahu, I'll give him credit. He taught us out that when we light a candle on Shabbat, we light a candle for the person. We can't light a candle for the person that we were. And then, because that person got us to this point of clarity, and we light another candle for the person that we are, right? So that we understand that you're going through this process of transformation. So it's so powerful what you guys are doing, and you're documenting. It's amazing. And we're lucky to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
and I think
we're so grateful.
Tzipporah,
Happy to be here with you and speak on these amazing subjects together. It's really lovely, and it's lovely meeting you and getting to know you guys a little bit. Your amazing questions. It's just like,
and I think it'll be great for you
beautiful.
guys, for the two Rebbetzins to, talk about, stuff, exchange information and questions and whatever. I've learned a precious thing: women, more friends, the better. It's just, social guys. We could be in a cocoon for come out and just say hi to everybody, grab some meat, go back in. Women need real interaction.
Yes, I would love that, Rebbetzin, to definitely stay connected with you for sure. You have so much wisdom, so much knowledge. I can learn a lot from you.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Well, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And we're very, very grateful.
Yes.
Amen.